Hello, everybody, and welcome to my show. I'm Bebo, and this is Austin, and we're here to talk about Veiled Fate, which, you know, when we first started talking, I laughed because you were like, well, it's not doing as well as we hoped, and I was like,
Oh, that's all I
$700,000,
said.
Austin, get out of here.
We learned a lot from the campaign. Not that it didn't do as well as we hoped. It's doing fantastic, and we're very happy.
But the point is that if you're watching this, you need to go back, Failed Fate. But the point of this interview is to tell you all of the great things about this game. And the first thing I want to tell everybody is there is this extremely cool website where you could potentially win a special pin for Veiled Fate if you solve the puzzle. There's a puzzle website. So I'm going to post. Yeah, it's really incredible. So let me post the link in the comments. And also, I know I don't look like Bebo. I am Bebo, but I'm also Waluigi. Because that's just kind of who I am as a person.
And I didn't dress up. I'm the worst, apparently. But yeah.
You're in the process of moving. You've got a lot on your plate.
So I'm sharing to our Discord to come and watch. So excuse me while I did that. Sorry.
No worries at all. I am currently sharing the links as well. So if everybody will just be patient with us for just a moment, we're posting to all of our social media accounts.
Yep. So Kevin, who just posted in a comment from YouTube, actually was one of our best temple delvers. I don't know if that's what we're calling them or not, but our ARG game. He actually made a whole wiki on all of the different passwords and clues and had it all organized really well. I was really, really impressed. He did a fantastic job with that.
That's so cool. I'm really envious of anybody who's good at puzzle solving. I'm super not.
I was blessed because I knew all the passwords, so I just got to experience the story elements of it without having to do all the hard work. In fact, some people were like, Austin, this took us 30 minutes to find this clue. And so I went and tried to find the clue and actually never found it. So it was I'm not good enough at this game to be in this temple with you guys, but it was fun. I had a blast going through it just on my own.
They kick you out?
They should have, but they didn't.
Okay, that's good to hear. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company and how you got involved in the tabletop games industry?
Yeah, so my name's Austin. I work at Ivy Studios. I'm the Ivy Games guy, so I'm the head of that department of Ivy Studios. I was originally in business development. I would go to ad agencies and try to sell them animation because we're an animation studio. And Zach and I, one of the owners, came up with the idea for Moonrakers over a Christmas break from work. And we came in to the office that January. I got sat down in an office and we thought we were talking about our goals for that year. And instead they were like, hey, would you like to run a board game side of our company? And I was just like, yes, that sounds amazing. Because we were all really big board game nerds, but that never struck me as something that I could do at IV full time.
Right.
And was just an amazing chance. And I'm really glad that they let me try it out because it was kind of a huge risk of my time because they had to pay my salary while we were making Moonrakers and all of that. And that took 2 years. So from initial idea to Kickstarter was, I think, 20 months. So yeah, it was a lot.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a long time. And a lot of that was just making sure it was a good game. I think 3 months in, my initial recommendation was I should go back to my old job. Because I was just like, this is not good. And we just kept changing stuff, kept chipping away until we were really proud of it. So, yeah.
That's such a cool story. I love that. So, Moonrakers raised $409,000 on Kickstarter. Yeah. That is a lot of money for a first-time publisher.
Thank you. We were very surprised and impressed and just very thankful to the community that chose to take a chance on us. It was one of those things where we pressed launch and we were like, grandma's backing it, mom's backing it, but is anyone else backing it? And we didn't know. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's It's absolutely gorgeous too. So,
Thank you.
at your animation studio,
Mhm.
what are some of the things that you learned in your old job that helped you navigate the world of board games? Because like people don't realize how tight knit the community is and how
Yeah.
you have to get ins and communicate with people and like be friends with everybody.
You really do. So yeah, that would be the main one, like relationship development
Oh no, you froze.
is
Okay, you're back.
probably the biggest thing from my as far as just with community management. And that was amazing because when we finished Moonrakers, that was right before the pandemic hit. The pandemic hit, and then we were starting working on Build Fate, and it was just like we can't do playtesting like we did for Moonrakers. We did all of our playtesting in person for Moonrakers, and it was just like that's not possible. And luckily, I had made just friends on the internet of people that had backed Moonrakers and were curious to learn more and joined our Discord. And those people like were my closest friends during the pandemic. And
Aww.
played Veiled Fate every day for a long stretch of time. It was just like, yeah, that like as far as going back to your original question, like skills you've learned, relationship building is a weird thing to say because it sounds like they're fake friendships, but it's also just learning how to be intentional and build relationships that last and are important. So, yeah.
It's funny because people don't always realize that like building relationships is about being meaningfully in somebody's life and then showing up for them later when they
Yeah.
need you to, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And people are always talking about parasocial relationships on Twitter and stuff, but like when somebody messages me on Twitter and they've been following me for many years, I usually reply and have a conversation with them. Sometimes they ask me to call them on the phone. Like I'd show up.
Yeah. It's so different getting a message from someone that's already invested in us, whether they've play tested a game or they've, taken time to comment on things on social media versus just like an out of the blue, like, hey, can you give me advice on running a Kickstarter? It's like, sure, I can try, but I don't have a ton of time to invest in that versus if someone's already invested in us, like, oh man, I'm all in. I'm really excited to invest back. So it definitely goes a long way. We were talking about soft skills recently, and that does kind of qualify as one of those soft skills because we're looking at hiring and growing our side of the company, the board game side of the company. It's like, well, the person that we hire has to have really good soft skills of talking to community and interacting with people on camera. And it's just like, it's hard to develop those. So, yeah.
It very much is. My wife is like bananas good at all things soft skills, and I'm so grateful for that because I needed it in my life. I was like, I need somebody who will just be able to like look at me when I say something silly, and I'll just be like, okay, I'll leave.
Spouses that can really fix the worst parts of you are amazing. And fix it, people don't fix you, but like my wife, I am the worst at grammar. And that's like a weird thing to be really thankful for. But like, I cannot tell you how many times I'm about to put a social post online or I'm working on the rule book. And I'm like, babe, can you read that?
Oh, that's so cute.
Oh, goodness. It's very important.
Yes, totally is. My wife has dramatically different skills than me. The primary one being I am completely like never, ever, ever going to be caught dead in the kitchen. I hate it. I don't cook. I don't look at the kitchen. And my wife was a gourmet chef for years and years and years. She opened her first restaurant as a lead chef when she was 23.
Wow. What a great spouse. I want a gourmet chef for a spouse. No, my wife's great. I don't want to say that.
I married up. I was like, holy smokes, I married the best person in the world. Like she can cook. Like, oh my gosh. And I just love her to death. Like she's so great to be around and I'm just so happy. So
that's great.
Hi, come on, what? Hi, Tim. Hi, Rule. Hi, Liz. Hi, Kevin. Everybody. Gosh, so many people are here. And I wanted to acknowledge all of them earlier. And Tony's here. I just wanted to say hi to everybody.
I know everyone except for Come On What, but hi, Come On.
Hello. Come On What is a friend of mine.
Oh, okay, great.
And I love Rule. Rule's incredible.
Ruel played on our launch day stream, and it was great. Ruel, did you win? I think you won.
That's awesome. So why don't we talk a little bit about Veiled Fate now that we've been rambling about how great everybody is?
We're just talking.
We love our family. Sorry, we're going to brag about that for a little bit. Okay, so let's dig into, let's see. Oh, right. It's Halloween. I forgot it was Halloween. I want you to tell everybody a spooky story.
All right,
or a story about Halloween.
All right, so I don't think it was Halloween. I think it was October, and I was pretty young. I think I was like 10, and me and my sister had a bunch of friends over, and for some reason there was a camper parked at my house, and it was like the first time I can ever remember like being allowed to like go out in there and sleep out there with our friends by ourselves. Like our parents were right inside, but it was like, you know, like, oh, we're adults now, like we can go do this by ourselves. And my dad had come out to try us because I guess it was close to Halloween, and just like banged on the door, and we all laughed it off or whatever. So he goes back inside, and we're out there playing cards and stuff, and we hear whistling, and we're like, oh gosh, Dad is back, like just trying to scare us. And so we hear whistling for like 10 minutes, and we're like, man, this is so weird. Why is he spending 10 minutes of his life doing that? Like that's just like a long con for a joke, like 10 minutes of whistling. Mm-hmm. So we eventually just like crack the door open. We don't see anything, and there's still whistling happen, but we can't figure out where it's coming from. Then we hear like a big like rattling bang. We all run inside and are like, Mom, Dad's really trying to scare us. And my mom's like, oh, Dad went to bed like an hour ago. And we're all just like, what is happening? So I don't think we went back out to the camper that night, but I can't remember if we did or not, got brave and went back out. But still have no idea what the whistle. It definitely was like whistling a tune. It wasn't like the wind whistling in the trees. So no idea.
That's terrifying. What a fun, spooky story. Oh, I love that. So that is amazing. I love that. But let's dig into the game now for real. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Veiled Fate and the world that it's set in for anybody who hasn't actually had the opportunity to check it out.
So Veiled Fate, we're calling it a game of strategic deduction. And the reason we call it that is it is first a strategy game. You win on having the most points, but then there is an element of social deduction. And it's a little bit different than most social deduction games because a lot of them involve lying to someone's face. And in strategic deduction, what we're calling strategic deduction, you can lie with your actions more than your words. So you don't have to be a good liar. You just have to play strategically. There are other players that play it lying the entire time. I personally am one of those players where I'm just constantly saying the opposite of what I'm doing. But as far as the world that we created, Veiled Fate is set in a universe fairly similar to ours in the past. There was a man that was born named Aridin, and he wasn't particularly special for a very long time, but when he got to 30 years old, he just stopped aging. And so he outlived everyone around him. Eventually started developing more powers, kind of removed himself from society because he was just didn't want to keep losing people. Falls in love, has kids, becomes obsessed with keeping his mortal wife alive. And to make a long story short, she ends up passing away, and his kids had started a civil war fighting over the kingdom that he had made while he was trying to figure out a way to keep his wife alive. So he pulls all of those children out of the world, creates like an alternate universe where it's kind of like a heaven type situation. But those gods, those people that he pulled out really want to influence the world still. And so you, the players, are playing as those gods, celestial beings, trying to influence the world. And what the Aridin guy, the Zeus type figure, didn't know is that they had demigods on Earth. So they had kids on Earth. And you, the player, draw a card, which you see, right, that purple and blue card there in the what's in the box section, that tells you which demigod is yours. And the whole point of the game is for you to try to have your demigod ascend to the throne. So you are trying to get them the most renowned so that they will become king or queen. There are 9 demigods. They represent a bunch of different races. And the reason for that in our game is that Aridin, when he left, kind of created this utopian city on Earth. Well, their Earth, and brought all the different races and people together at the end of the Civil War that his children had made. And so there are a bunch of different cultures represented in the city, and they're all trying to vie to become the new leaders of it. So yeah, that is a little bit about the backstory of the game.
That is the most in-depth backstory I've ever heard about a board game. Like this guy is trying to desperately keep his wife alive. Like that's not what that box cover tells me, and that's incredible that I can open up something that's so gorgeous and so like engaging visually, and then like discover an adventure inside of it, right? Like it's like if books actually had good covers.
Oh, great! So I think that's one of the first times I've gone through the journey, because the Enter the Temple puzzle game that we talked about is the players hearing some of that, and they get to learn more about it, and it goes way more in depth than what I went in. But they get a lot of different looks into some of the demigods, a lot of look, who Aridin is and his tragedy of Aridin. So, but yeah, it's been a blast to work on for a lot of different reasons. I personally like this game more than Moonrakers. There are people on our team that like Moonrakers more than Veiled Fate, so we're a little bit split down the middle as far as a development team. But yeah, this game was something that we kind of came up with the idea for right as we were actually driving back from Dice Tower. We did a live play of Moonrakers at Dice Tower in Florida, and we were driving back to the airport. We were like, what would it look like to have a game where you hid in plain sight? And so we had played a game. It's a video game. Actually, you may have played this, Bebo. It's called Hidden in Plain Sight. HIPS is often called. And it's basically like you're in a crowd and you're controlling one person. And you're trying to accomplish different goals and stuff. And we kind of wanted to pull that feeling out of that game and apply it to a board game. And that was the initial idea for the game. That's
absolutely incredible. I love that. So I have a question.
Go ahead.
And I'm kind of freaking out about it. So can you explain to me what is going on with this wooden board? Because it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
All right. So I'm going to have to derail you a little bit. We have two boards on the page that you're looking at right now. The oak board and the white oak board and the walnut board. The walnut board was that darker wooden one.
Yes.
If you go to the updates, the most recent update has a third option.
Oh my gosh.
And it is better than the other two. So the first two were just like a laser cut walnut and a laser cut white oak. They magnetize. That's how all the slices get together, which I love. So
are you kidding me?
That's the white oak board. The next one is a white oak board with UV printing on it. And so you get some of the colors from the game board back into the wooden board, but you can still see the wood grain through the ink. It's like an ink staining.
Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous.
Thank you. I personally will be playing with the middle one. The walnut one there, the bottom one is great and gorgeous, but it's the least legible. You play with it once you've played a game and you know what the regions do, but it's not as easy of a glance factor, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it matches my dining room table. How could you do this to me?
It's still a great option, or we wouldn't have sold it. But it definitely, for me, the ink stained one is my favorite.
Oh, they are absolutely stunning. I'm freaking out.
Thank you. So we had a really great partnership with a few different people in order to bring those to life. They did such a good job. So I want to make sure I get all their names right, because I know one of them well, but I don't know all of them well. So Relic was one of them, and then they did like a conversion of our artwork to make sure that it was possible to laser engrave and CNC and do all this stuff to make it work. But then
I didn't know this was possible. I did not know that you could UV print on wood at all. Is this new tech?
I think it's new, because I also didn't know that. Neutral Ground is our main partner. They do a lot of like maps for like Zelda and Game of Thrones and a bunch of different things where like they do like laser etched maps for games, like basically nerd fandom things. The Zelda map's really cool. Neutral Ground, you should check them out. And then Curious Form is helping with the actual production of it. They're CNCing and all of that. So they're all really great. We're really, really happy that we're able to work with the three of them to bring these to life. They will be way more expensive after the campaign, just because they worked with us to get to this price point to make it affordable for the Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah. How much are they on the campaign?
So they're still expensive on the campaign, and we've had to tell backers like, hey, only buy this if you're already positive you love this game. Come play it on TTS with us, because it is a luxury add-on for sure. It's $175 for the board,
Yeah,
which is basically more than any add-on plus the highest tier of the game. So you basically double your investment to get the wood board.
right. But
so,
it's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh no, so one of our ethos things about design at our studios, we make the game that we want to play. And so we were like, well, wood board would be amazing for this. And so we were talking to our friends like, hey, is this possible? Can we make this happen? And when they said yes, we're like, cool, put it in the campaign. We're going to see if people want this. And so far people have wanted it, which has been amazing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love that. I can't even. Sorry. I got no words. I'm out of words. Okay, so let me go back to my questions again. Oh yeah. What inspired the creation of Veiled Fate itself? Like the world. What inspired that? Because it feels very like mythological Greek goddy.
Yeah, so we wanted to find a really good just a good theme that went with the mechanics, right? Because the hiding in plain sight, like you're playing as a player and you're moving in Veiled Fate, you can move any character on the board, not just your own character. Thus, that's why you're hiding who you are. And so that mechanic was really hard to come up with a theme for. It took us a very long time. And so for Moonraker's, theme was first. And in Veiled Fate, theme was second. And we initially started with like a Minions themed game, not actual Minions, but like you were an evil scientist and you created a minion and there was going on and you were trying to see whose minion was the best. But we couldn't quite get the reasoning behind why you were able to move other players' minions. And so it got to like the demigods idea of like, all right, so we're trying to hide which demigod is ours because Zeus would kill the demigod if they knew, because Zeus didn't want demigods or whatever. It was kind of like the initial like the mind games thing. How do we make this work? And from there, we didn't want to use existing pantheon. We wanted to, one, avoid offending anyone if it's a pantheon that is still being used somewhere on the planet. And then beyond that, we wanted diversity in our game. We didn't want it to be just a bunch of Greek strapping lads like Hercules that we're going to have in our game. So for us, it was how do we come up with a pantheon that represents a diverse cast, and then how do we also make it not, for us, like most god-themed games are very, not that they're not kid-friendly, but they're very seductive. That's not the word I'm looking for. We didn't want like to sell it as sex, basically.
Games about demigods are straight up horny, y'all.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we couldn't find a game where it was like these people. One, we as an art studio, we wanted to go for a much more off the beaten path art style, and then also didn't want it to be about perfect bodies. We wanted it to be about fun characters with interesting look and story. So yeah.
And you totally accomplished that, like tenfold. It's stunning. I love it. So, what's your favorite video game right now, and why is it Hades?
So, I am going to be totally honest. I have not played video games in a while on purpose. Any new video games in a while on purpose, because this campaign has been every day, 15-hour days for the last month and a half, 2 months. On my to playlist is Squadrons and Hades.
Okay.
Those are like my two. I did play a game of Twilight Imperium 4 with our Discord right before the campaign because one of our Discord mods was leaving on a 2-year missionary journey and could not play games with us anymore. And we were like, we're going to get one more game of Twilight Imperium 4 in. So I got to do that, and that's been like my holdover. But tomorrow I'm going to be downloading some games, so I'm excited about that.
Awesome. I really recommend the Hades because it's something that, like, I'm not very far in the game. I just beat the first boss. Okay. But the reason why I love it is because I can play it for like 15 minutes before bed
nice.
and then fall asleep. And then, because it's a roguelike, I just pick it back up whenever I can, And that is the only way I can play video games as somebody who's like a really busy freelancer.
Yep. Nope. Totally get it. And that's really important, especially like also like you're a parent and I'm a parent, like and a spouse. Like you can't just, go upstairs and lock yourself in a room and play a video game for 3 hours. Like it's just not viable at this stage of life. So
I mean, in my life, if I go up to my room and lock myself in here for 3 hours, like they're both just gonna come join me. They're gonna also come play video games with me for 3 hours. So I have no complaints because my kids are much older than yours. You're dealing with littles. I have a 10-year-old and an 18-year-old, and it's like
that's true. Yep.
I'm more worried about the fact that they're both going to have scary costumes and I'm going to be Waluigi and be actually afraid of them and be like, wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing their costumes if either of them ever come home.
That's great. My son
has a
costume. He has a great Daniel Tiger costume. Won't even put it on. Mom worked so hard on it. So he's in trouble.
Of course. That's how it has to go. I don't think you can get 2-year-olds in trouble. I think that's like, I'm pretty sure that 2-year-olds get you in trouble for getting them in trouble. That's what I remember. The one thing I remember with parenting is every time I go to punish my child, it's way more of a punishment for me than it is for her. It's like the worst.
It is, because it's like, well, they throw a temper tantrum because they don't want to sit down and eat, and you can't let them win or they'll never sit down and eat again. But it's also way less fun for you to work with them to get them to sit down and eat. Like everything is a dual punishment for both parties.
Yep. Welcome to 2-year-olds, everybody. So it's a blast. I certainly don't miss it, but you're actually gonna do it again.
Yep, do it again. Have another baby on the way. So
yeah. Well, congratulations on your new baby.
Thank you.
And we are going to wrap up here in a moment, but I have to ask the most important question. Which is, so far in this campaign, what do you think are or is the most valuable lesson or lessons that you've learned during this campaign? Because I know that running Kickstarter campaigns is stressful. I'm gearing up to run another one, and I just finished running one.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. I think it's funny. We were talking with my team yesterday, and we were just like, I think we've learned more from our second campaign than we did from our first, which is kind of wild and doesn't seem rational. But Moonrakers was a rather simple campaign. There was a base game for $55 and a Kickstarter exclusive version that came with a small expansion and gold foil on the box for $65. So it was like not a cheap game. We upgraded all the components. There was metal coins in every game.
It's gorgeous.
Well, thank you. And as a design studio, like we made the game that we wanted to play, and we invested heavily in the art and everything else. And so for that, it was just 2 levels, pretty simple. We didn't really have any plans for any add-ons at all. And our audience was like, you guys are dumb. You have to have add-ons because we want sleeves and your card isn't standard size. We want extra coins. We want extra dice. We want play mats. We want metal ship tokens. And so we ended up adding all of that after the campaign, but it was really simple transition. For Veiled Fate, we already had tons of add-ons like the box. We had box alternates for certain pledge levels, and we had really heavily invested in the component quality, because that's what people loved about Moonrakers was the component quality. So for us, we wanted a really high component quality, and we thought our audience wanted a really high component quality. And a lot of people did, but one of the main things we heard from new backers and new fans that didn't back Moonrakers or play Moonrakers were, we're not sure we want a high component, invest in a high component quality until we know if we like the game.
Right.
And that made sense to us.
It's reasonable.
It's a reasonable ask. And in some ways, like the answer is from us just like, well, we're making the game we want to make, so we're not going to make a cheap version. Like we're not going to let you do a print and play of because we don't want the game to be acted with in that way. But we did put it on TTS so you could try it. So if you have TTS, go and try it. But then the big thing, we had an interview with Board Game Co. And we talked a lot about this. But we felt that the component quality was limiting people that were able to experience our game, because it was just, it's 2020. There's not a lot of disposable income. We wanted to grow our audience and not just have a very dedicated fan group that's willing to spend what we want to spend on our own game. Because I know you know about making board games. You make a small change, like it's a circular board, and we don't want that side of that board to be raw cardboard. So we have to invest in this really high quality black core cardboard that costs a lot more money. And it adds up, right? When you invest in the quality components. And so for us, we were like, okay, how can we make a new pledge level for people that don't care as much about component quality as we do? And I think doing that from the beginning would have simplified a lot of things. And also simplifying our pledge tiers would have simplified a lot of things. Going back to, having 3 pledge tiers, it's really obvious what's in each one. And you can choose the low option, which is just the game, the medium option that comes with some extras, and then the, make it metal, really high quality. I'm going to invest $150 in this level.
And I loved that name too.
Make it metal.
Yeah, make it metal.
It was Sam, one of the owners of the studio. He's like, I want a metal game. And like I said, our design ethos is we make the game we want to make. And so we talked to Panda and we're like, can we make all these components metal? And they were like, well, this is too pointy. You're going to stab someone. Someone's going to stab someone. You're going to get sued. So we had to change some of the components, right? And so that was fun. But once we got through all that, we're like, this is going to be so, especially if you get the wood board, it's just going to have a really, really fun feel to the game. But yeah, that's two things we learned, I think. The other thing is, well, I don't know if that was something we learned. We kind of already knew that. The TTS mod, we didn't ever release the Moonrakers TTS mod before delivery. And just it being 2020 and the pandemic, it was like, okay, we need to release the mod this time around. It's just a different world than we were in 2019. So, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I've been using Tabletop Simulator to playtest all of the game designs that I'm working on right now, and there's like 3 of them that I have to consistently be keeping up with my teams about, and it's been busy.
Yep.
So
I definitely have been racking up those Tabletop Simulator hours badges.
Yeah, that I'm not sure if I've been paying attention to any of those badges. I should probably go look.
Yeah, I'm curious what I'm at. I don't know if I'm at. All right, I'm almost at 400 hours in TTS since the beginning of the year. So
awesome. Well, after this call, I am going to go publish my Tactiki video, which is now on Kickstarter and only has 5 days left.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and you are going to go get in costume to celebrate the finale of this project.
Yep. We're live streaming from 7 to 10, and I think the campaign ends at 10. So
awesome. Well, I'm live streaming from 5 to 7.
Oh, perfect. So go watch Bevo and then come over and watch us on IV Games Weekly.
Yeah.
The Faction Battlegrounds. Have you seen this? They're coming out with their Kickstarter next month, December.
Faction Battlegrounds?
Mm-hmm. They're full-time creators, I think, as well. We're talking to them. We have a show called IV Games Weekly where we just talk to other creators. We talk to other influencers and just talk about board games. And so we're having a call with them at 7. And then at 8, we're doing a live stream of Veiled Fate with, I think, maybe just me and Zach playing, or maybe me, Zach, and Sam. I'm not positive which one. But yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to check out Faction Battlegrounds. Oh my gosh, they're so cool. A multiplayer fantasy combat board game representing diverse cultures and mythologies. I'm already sold.
Yep. That was with us. Like, I mean, obviously we just talked about this for Veiled Fate. And so they messaged us on Instagram and we're like, hey, we should be friends. And we were like, that's probably true. This is awesome. So we're talking to one of their creators at 7 tonight. But yeah. Really
I love this. That's so great. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And thank you everybody else for watching. Make sure you go check out my Tactiki video after this and then tune into my next live stream, which will be 5 to 7 with TJ and Killing. Kira will be playing, Pacific Standard Time or Daylight Time. I don't know, whatever the Pacific time is right now.
Well, actually, we're going to overlap a little bit because I'm in Central Time. So our stream is to 10 Central. So sorry, Bevo.
I can move mine.
Don't watch us.
Well, we're just going to be playing like kids. Well, we're going to be playing some games with the kids first, and then we're going to be playing just TJ and I, the more adult games. Calliope Games is launching the Kickstarter or their Calliope Games Game Night Extravaganza. And it's just 3 games that are really awesome that all fill different niches, and it's like $40 for all 3 of them. It's just a no-brainer. Yeah, and they're all really good games. I actually didn't agree to get on the project until they came over and showed me how to play the games, and I was like, wait, no, I love these. Yes, I'm in.
All right, I'm in.
Even though I trust Calliope. But I wanted to find games that like suit me as a person that I can talk about passionately in a genuine and authentic way and be excited about.
Yep.
And those are the only projects that I really want to take on because I want to make sure that I'm giving everything I work on my all.
Yeah, I mean that's like when we talked to Rado about that with our games. Like Rado's just like, I don't like the kind of games that you're making, so I'm not going to cover them. And but I have someone on my team that would love this game and they would love to cover it. We're like, great, like really happy that you're not intentionally playing a game that you know you're not going to like. Like that would be a bad preview. So
I'm glad too.
We appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and everybody go check out Veiled Fate. It's on Kickstarter right now. You can click the link above or below, depending on what platform you're on, and they only have 6 hours to go. More importantly, go check out their updates on that Kickstarter page and go look at those boards again, because even if you don't back, you can just like yearn.
If you don't back, we'll have it for sale in the future. So if people really like it, it's really well reviewed, then you can go check it out if you don't back. So
awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me, and thanks everybody else. I will see you all around in a little bit, and keep an eye out for my Takatiki video in probably about an hour. I'll see you around, and thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you.